So I've been saving this car for this specific video segment. This is actually our 1962 Corvette. It was just completely restored and rebuilt. It's kind of a new car now. But the last step that the body guy did before giving it back to us was he color sanded the whole thing, and then he buffed it out with a wool buffing pad and a heavy compound. So there are holograms all over the entire car. The Porter Cable 7424 is a random orbit polisher. It orbits only, there is no forced rotation. It is a very user-friendly tool. This is our new backing plate. This backing plate is made in the United States of America. There are holes in the plate to keep it nice and cool, and it has a ton of give. So when you need to go over little ridges on your finish, this gives a whole bunch, making it a really easy and safe way to polish. When we washed this car, we washed it and we clayed it earlier. There was a little bit of overspray from when it was in the shop. So now it's smooth, and it just needs to be polished really, really badly, finally. So I'm going to start with our brand new Porter Cable pads. Now, the new pads, how they're different from the old pads, they're 6 3/4 inches, so they're about 3/4 inches smaller than our old pads. They have a new backing on them. This new type of Velcro backing is much, much better adhesion to our backing plate than the old. Also, we also removed the plastic outer rim that we used to have on the old pads. That's because we now have a complete adhering to the pad, to the backing plate, without anything in the way. So this now mounts on perfect, it holds on great, and this new polishing system with the new green severe swirl remover pads is extremely effective. Now, as always, I always like to start with a little mist of the detail spray in the pad, and then I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the green polish. So green polish, green pad. So I got a little X on the pad there. So severe swirl remover, green pad. Now I'm going to start the polisher at setting number 5,000 oscillations. And then I'll slowly, as I get the polish worked in, then I'll bump it to 6,000. So when I'm using the severe swirl remover in the green pad, I'm using moderate pressure. The actual pad, as you watch, it's barely spinning. It's spinning at about this speed here. You'll notice. If it's spinning too fast, you know you're not applying enough pressure. If it's not spinning at all with the green pad, you're probably applying a little bit too much pressure. So I can hold it. It's only oscillating unless there's a lot of pressure applied. So I hit this little area. Again, this is a test area. I want to make sure that I have the exact process I'm going to use down on a nice small area like this before I complete the whole car, so I get the results I need. Moving from the green pad straight to the orange pad, the 6 3/4 inch pad. You notice the Porter Cable pads have a hex cut face on them. That system for us, we found, is just more effective than the completely flat-faced pads, which are used specifically for the other type of polisher. So here I am with a perfect, nice fit. You notice there's still a raised edge on the back of the pad. That's to make sure these pads fit just perfectly to the backing plate. Start with a hit of the detail spray, as always. And then with the orange pad, you'll be amazed to know the orange polish, the swirl and haze remover. Once again, I'm going to go with a little X. Cool. It's way too soft. Once again, I'm going to start at setting number 5 on the Porter Cable, and then as I work the polish over the area, then I'll bump it up 1 notch to speed 6. Now to 6. When I turn off the machine, you notice I keep the machine moving. That's because if I turn it off and I'm in one spot, look, you're going to see a big blob of polish. What that's going to make, when you come over to remove it, it's going to make it that much harder. You wipe it nicely and then you hit this big actual, this big dried on milk of polish. Keep it thin while keeping the machine moving when you come to stop. All right, I see that both polishes flashed. I first started with the severe swirl remover. That flash turned almost completely invisible. Now I can see that the swirl haze mover has done the same thing. It's flashed, it's now pretty much transparent. So I'm going to move on to the last step of the polishing process before we go ahead and throw on a sealer. So the white pad, the fine machine polish pad, of course it fits perfectly to the new backing plate, with a quick mist of the detail spray. Now, put on a nice little X. And then, like this. With the fine machine polish, maybe even with the other polishes, as you're doing your test area and you want to use a little bit less polish, that's all right. It took me a little bit longer to get that polish to flash because I had pretty much a full-size X in the pads. You can use a little bit less just when you're doing your test area, maybe a couple of pea-sized drops. Once again, I'm going to pump down from setting 6 to setting 5. I'm going to start slow and then move my way up to setting 6, and you'll see me nod when I do. Notice that I go up and down and then I go back and forth. That's because I want to cross every single swirl mark on this entire car at least twice so I have the greatest chance of totally knocking them out. Going up and back and forth, up and back and forth. I do that series about 3 times, and that is 95% of the time knocks them all the way down. And that was great. This car's almost it's a whole different color once we go ahead and finish knocking it out. Beautiful. So now I would go ahead and finish the entire car through the system. I would go green pad, orange pad, white pad, and we're going to do that here in just a second. But when I'm done, what I'd like to do to this car is I'm going to put a coat of our machine super wax, our sealant, on it. And of course, you'll be amazed to know that the gray pad, the new gray pad with the new backplacking, is made specifically to work with our machine super wax. We call it machine super wax because it's more than a wax. It is a polymer sealant, and this vehicle gets driven. And since it does get driven, it gets parked underneath trees. I've cleaned up numerous bird bombs off of it already in its short life. But I want to put a sealant on here now, and this combination, gray pad, gray polish, is just the ticket. Now before I start, I'm going to take the speed on the polisher all the way down to 3,000 oscillations per minute. Before I start, as always, I like to do a little hit of the detail spray. And you'll also notice that the machine super wax goes pretty far. You don't need to use a lot, so watch how small the X I put on this. Okay, a really small amount of the machine super wax is all you're going to need, especially for an area as small as I'm doing this test on right now. So this black pad is extremely fine. It's a very, very fine pad, and with the low RPMs, I'm sorry, low OPMs, oscillations per minute, you'll see that I can do this with just one hand. Okay, so now I've applied a really thin coat of the machine super wax. Now, here's the kicker when it comes to removing this product. You want to wait. You got to let it cure. This is a heavy polymer sealant, and the machine super wax needs at least 20 minutes to really cure to its best. And if it's really cold in the middle of winter, and the temperatures are, say, below 50 degrees, why don't you go ahead and let it cure 30, even 40 minutes? It'll make it easier to remove, and it'll come off much more evenly. So, I'm going to go detail a little bit of the chrome on the car, detail the wheels, and then I'll come back and remove the super wax. All right, I just detailed all the bumpers and the wheels, and it looks fantastic. Now it's time to come back and remove the machine super wax. So, with a double soft microfiber polishing towel, gently remove this. It sure does remove. It comes off easy. And you want to make it even easier? Here's a trick that I like to do. My pad's actually dried up a little bit since it's been about 20 minutes. Now, I will take the actual polisher, leave it on setting number 3, put it directly onto the car, and take a little edge to corner of the towel over the handle. If you use the polisher without the handle, over the head of the machine. Be careful not to block the exhaust. Okay, make the polisher heat up, no good. So, and then you can actually remove polish quickly like this. Pretty neat little trick to knock down time and save your hands. Me, I started detailing when I was 10 years old, and by the time I was in high school, I could feel my fingers from pressing back so many thousands of times, polishing probably thousands of vehicles, and it strains the tendons in your hand. So machine polishing is I don't want to say essential, but if you want perfect, I'm going to go ahead and say it is essential. If you like to take a little bit extra time, remove every little nook and cranny of polish wax by hand, I totally understand. To most, this is therapy, right? Anyway, I'm absolutely thrilled that finally the paint is cured on the old Corvette, that we're just starting to get this paint perfect again, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up this car, and then I'm going to drive it on out of here.